Delighted to have you. We're going to get right into today. So I'm going to ask Danny, who's doing our introduction today? You? Okay, thank you. Everyone, let's welcome Danny, who's going to be doing the introduction of our speaker today.
Good afternoon. And we do have members of the club traveling to PETS and Cayman Islands this year. The president-elect Wayne, Secretary Francino, and also Sheila, as well as Joan, is also down in Cayman Islands. So we just want to remember them in that regard. So our speaker today is Mr. Ricardo Miller. He says here, but seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and its righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. It's a scripture verse taken from Matthew 6:33 that he considers to be one of his favorite verses. He's a born-again Christian, a husband, a father of four, including Jude, who was diagnosed with autism. He is also an IT specialist, and he became involved with Reach in 2009 after his son's diagnosis. His first encounter with Reach was a providential meeting with Kim Gibson at the office of Jill Redgrave, a speech therapist. He accepted Kim's invitation to attend Reach meeting and has been actively involved ever since, spreading the autism awareness message and offering assistance wherever needed. Ricardo has served in various capacities and considered it a privilege to have worked under capable, honest, professional, and passionate leaders, including the Costa Bethel, Mario Pickey, Marcia Newport, and currently Wayne Gibson. He rose through the ranks to serve as acting president during Reach's transition to governance by board. Presently, he primarily assists as a spokesperson during Autism Awareness Month. Finally, he credits God through his son, Jesus Christ, for placing him within such an organization. He expresses deep gratitude to his wife, Jan, who has supported and partnered with him for the past 25 years in raising their children, Joanna, Joel, Jordan, and Jude. Ricardo acknowledges that God has used his children to humble them, open doors, and teach them patience, perseverance, and to avoid quick judgment. So please welcome me as we have a discussion with our guest speaker today, Ricardo Miller, under the topic, Navigating Autism from a Father's Perspective.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Mr. Miller. Once again, thank you for being here with us. You know, some people would look at a glass of water and they would, it is half empty, and others would look at the glass and they would say that it's half full. But really, it's a matter of perspective. And April is observed as Autism Awareness Month. And during this time, information is shared to not only educate, to inform the public of what is autism and some early signs of it. But today we want to discuss more so your perspective, a parent's perspective, and particularly a father's perspective on navigating autism. And can you share with us some experience of that?
Thank you, Mr. Raming, and good afternoon to all those who are present and physically as well as those online. Yeah, so being a father of an autistic child, so I'm in my 50s now, and my son is 17. And so we would have had him in my late 30s, mid 30s. So, you know, when I first came to know it, I didn't really have an idea what autism was. you've seen that advertisement back then, Autism Speaks was kind of big on TV, and a lot of you just didn't pay attention because there was no one in your immediate family or no one within your household that you would have, been familiar with. So, but once we got it, I didn't really have time to read or be sad. I had one son that was older than him by a year and a half, and he was okay, but quote unquote normal. So that kind of like, okay, where do we go? So I had to then do research, and he did display some signs early on that we had some concerns with having a child already before, you have different milestones that you're expecting, and he was not achieving those. And so you kind of like, okay, something's up, and you had to have him checked out. So, but once it was that, I just, my view is always, how do I remediate? How do I help? It can be better, can be made better? So that was my journey. And that was early on, that's the journey. My wife, initially, she was devastated. She took it hard, and I took it hard too, but then, I'm like, I have to work on this. I have to deal with this. And so now he's 17. And so there are other challenges that would have arisen. For many, it was 3.5 when we first found out, to now that he's 17. Along that path, there were issues that we dealt with and came to terms with, but yes. So the journey as a father was not one of abandonment, but not one of giving up either. I came from a home where my father wasn't there, and I promised I would always be there for my children. And so that didn't even cross my mind, because even in our community, sometimes you have parents, it could be the husband or it could be the wife, who actually leaves, and it's so important that both persons are present for this child, because it's really a difficult journey for any parent or for any household. It's a difficult journey, even for the kids. And so the great thing is, me and my wife, we partnered, and sometimes I got it wrong, and, she was right there to kind of like guide me, whether it was choosing a school. Sometimes I wanted the inexpensive book, and she would say, no, we have to pay to get this boy to help. And so we had to sacrifice, and I thank God for it.
I mentioned that your son was diagnosed at the age of 3.
I think 3.5. 3.5.
3.5?
Yes, sir.
What was there? I know you mentioned that there was some signs or things that you would have noticed. You mind sharing with us what those signs were?
Yeah, certainly. So some of the signs were, okay, his speech was delayed, so he wasn't speaking properly. He had limited vocabulary that wasn't very clear. If he wanted something, and we're talking about 3.5 now, so 3.5. So between maybe 1.5 to that 3.5, he was just not displaying. So he couldn't communicate properly. He was delayed in using the toilet, the potty, and just transitioning from diapers. Also, noise irritated him, and he would put his hands to his ears. And that's one of the traits that a lot of autistic kids would display. They like, if the noise really is, because different they have different sensory response, like things that affects us, that they see or they hear or they touch and feel. They're very acute. So in my son's case, it was the sound, like a motorcycle that passed me and put his hands to that. It was just too much for him. Any loud noise, he would just do that, and then he would say, mm. He would also look up in the sky and say, and some of those would be his way of coping, I guess, early on. And so those were signs that we were not familiar with, and I'm like, okay, I'm not sure what's going on here. Also inappropriate use of toys. So there are a toy or a basketball or a car, a vehicle. Instead of rolling it, you might take it and look at it and do different things with it instead of rolling it and just packing all the cars together. No, he wouldn't do that. Or basketball, he wouldn't bounce it or just like bounce it and throw it up and play catch with someone. So it was stuff like that. He would just throw it down the street and just watch out. He didn't danger. He wasn't. He would put himself into danger. So if we had to be very careful, like we lived on the street, of course, and so you had to be very careful with him going into the road, because danger wasn't something he recognized. And even though, you can teach a child early on, and most of them will see a car and they're like, pause, that didn't phase him. So those were some of the signs that we would have seen.
So in the process of teaching them, knowing that there was challenges that he was faced with in the process of teaching him what kind of avenues or steps that you had to take to ensure that he was safe from those apparent dangers.
Right, so what we had to do is get help early on ourselves, because now here was a child with some challenges and we needed help on how to do it. So we went to the Ministry of Education, Susan Langdon. I worked there at the time, as a matter of fact. So it really was a blessing in that I knew a number of the persons who were specialists. And so I connected with them, I told them my issue. Then they started helping me and directing me to different programs. And then they tell me, you have to watch this, or you have to listen, or come to this meeting, or come to that. Joining Reach as well. And then eventually, the lady's name I mentioned was Ray, who was a speech pathologist therapist. Just going there to how to get him, not only did she work on his speech, but she worked on his behavior as well. Because the behaviors is a significant part of the autistic child's development. Whereas a normal child will learn behavior primarily from what they observe you saying. If you speak to them once, twice, they kind of respond. The autistic child doesn't necessarily respond in that short frame. So those would help the avenues that we have to explore, primarily getting involved with speech therapy, which was expensive for us back then. And that was, like I said, that like 14 years ago, 13 years ago, that was like $50 for a half an hour session. And today, this is what in the community we face. The government one is free, but always trying to get an appointment can be very challenging.
So the programs were primarily government-based programs?
You have a lot of private person who does it as well. So the government owned is kind of saturated, and a lot of persons, particularly ones on low income, or just where you're financially challenged, you want to try to get it, but it's very difficult to get one of those appointments. So what a lot of us do, in some cases, some people even move to the States. I mean, it's really gotten bad that some people have had to move where there's a lot more resources and they can explore. So they've uprooted and taken their child and gone there. But for those of us who didn't or who are unable to, we try to find whatever's in our budget. So one of the locals, so there are a lot of local, now today there are a lot of local speech therapists or even behavioral specialists. And so yes, I would say the private is it's much more people probably go to private if they can afford it.
Wow. I know you mentioned Reach. That would have assisted you and your family along this way. Exactly what is Reach and how have they assisted in navigating autism?
Right. So what Reach is a group, get how many years, a little over 20 years now, that's been founded, and it was found. The great thing about, before I go there, the great thing about Reach, there are a lot of men who are involved. Like you don't see men, like I've been in sports, and a lot of times you see the women bringing the children of the sports, but in Reach, a significant portion of those are men. If you saw the list that I had, a lot of them were men, and they didn't just forcefully from those positions. They just inherited because their kids were involved. Mario Carey, the Costa Battle, Dwayne Gates, who now heads it. And these are professional men, but they've sacrificed to get this organization and help others. And so, so that group, what it allowed us to do is kind of share. And you know what? And one of the great things I've learned, like, as an example, sharing and being in a community like that. Like some people, one person indicated how they had to mortgage their house and remortgage it. And so you have these warnings sometimes and sometimes there's still the results didn't yield what they want. Some persons went to Cuba. So this group offered us you get to choose. You take the bone, take the meat and spit out the bone. Whatever was suitable for you, you learn from it. And if you find something that was useful, you can explore that further. So that group allowed us to do, and also we have a WhatsApp group that allows persons to just share and vent. And some people are frustrated. Some of these kids are getting older. What do we do? What next? Some people are single parents. Some people deal with it, and it's really tough. And so, so that Reach, the Reach group has really been a great source for me, especially early on. It really was a great help for us. And then it kept us grounded and not in terms of having to deal with an autistic child. Because when you also saw others, you think you're bad, and then you see a parent who has 2 autistic kids. And so sometimes your eyes, you become a little bit more grateful than you are.
I guess everyone facing the same sort of challenge will become more supportive for one.
That's correct. Yes.
Awesome. as far as reach, persons, say they want to get connected with reach, how would they go with that happening?
Right, so we, and I'll give out I'll get a cell number where you can actually just reach out by WhatsApp and ask them to add you, and it's simple as that. We also have a membership, but the membership is like a $20 membership, and if you don't pay it, you're not allowed to be a part of it. But it's also a $20, $50 membership. $50 is the allow you to vote. The $20 is just standard membership. And so there's also a website, and we're also present on Facebook and social media. And so our main office is in the Queens College compound, right on Village Road. So there, that's where we have our meetings. That's where our board meet. Not our board, but different persons. We use our meeting. We have different rooms there as well for the kids. So while we're meeting, the kids can actually be sectioned off in a certain area. Or if you just want to come by while the office is open and just have a space where you can just sit down and talk, the office is open Mondays to Fridays.
Okay, nice, thank you. I just want to go back to the Sunday. You mentioned that your son is 17 now.
Yes, sir.
So, no, he would have went to school, perhaps graduated as well. What is he doing now at 17 years old?
So my son was in a private school, and it was costing us a few $1,000s every 3 months. So he only finished at grade 8 level, because at that point he was about to turn 17, and I spoke to my wife. I said, I think this is it for him. I don't. And then my other kids, because he was there along with my twins, who were 14, because they were doing the same age level work. But his work level was not as strict as theirs, so they removed a number of subjects from that. And I see one of the gentlemen, I think Shervin Evans, his son and my son were in the same class, and they had a wonderful teacher. That was there. But so I had after grade 8, I'm like, I said, he needs to go. My wife, this boy likes to cook, we need to get him to do something. And my wife is more of a pusher of that academically. And so because I'm just like, man, this boy needs to work. But she's like, he needs to, I want him to really try to do this. And so there was someone brought it to our attention. There was a certificate program at UB that was in culinary. And she's like, okay, we need to get him to do this. And in my back of my mind, I said, I'm sure this fella can keep up with the UB work, because again, he's only at a grade 8 level mathematically and in English as well. But my wife was insistent, and we filled out the application, he was accepted. And man, that was a problem,
That's
And
good.
then-
That's good.
Huh?
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, so, sorry.
Sorry.
Back, but he's saying sometimes we get it wrong. But the other person can help us to get back on the path and to see more beyond what you see right now.
Sorry, man.
I love you.
Sorry.
Forgive me. I'm a bit comfortable, but I love my son. I love my children, I love them. And so, we finished the program. We just finished. The boy got P in UB.
Wow.
He passed his culinary, and the great thing is they worked with him. The kind of the action, the subject, and the lecturers. COB has someone there for persons with challenges, and some person in administration who helps persons. They'll either have someone sit with them, or they'll check in every now and they'll tell the lecturers that if you don't, you need to work with this child. And the lecturers were so good, man, that they work with him. So the testing method, they made children, instead of giving them written, they would test them verbally. And so it really was a blessing. And so he finished last week. He took exam with first, and he did very well. So I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Jesus.
Limitations to what persons can do. Now, Mr. Miller, I just would open the floor
Yeah.
to questions at this time. If anyone has any questions on Zoom or person, feel free to share.
My question is about sport. And it is the help the disabled, support to the disabled, the key. That helped in any way.
Thanks. So before Doc was one of my first bosses, I don't know if Doc remember me, but Doc was the one that kind of set me on IT. Let me just say that before, because I worked for this company, GPM, and he hired me. And that actually set the course for the rest of my life. And I'm very grateful to you, Doc, for those years. I've been in IT now for like 30 years because of,
Wow.
you know, he gave me an opportunity where a lot of people were not, him and his partner, Ashley Carter. I give God thanks for it, but to answer your question, so we got him in track. And so he actually was doing track, but he was kind of, and he liked it, he was doing good, but I did baseball with my kids and I didn't get him involved. I was just thinking it would have been more frustration having to deal with him and the one, because my kids were, I had one child, the oldest was 5, and I had like 3 others under them. So it was a lot, and I just figured, and my excuse was, I think it was an excuse I used with that, it was that there was gonna be no challenge. I think he would have done well in Special Olympics, but there was just too much other things going on for me to push him in that. And so we just kind of like so what he does, he plays music. So he can play keyboard, he can play the trumpet. So we kind of like move, you know, and like I say, he can cook. He also can cook, and so we got him culinary. So those were what we kind of directed him towards. Thank you, John.
I just want to make just a statement. I just want to say thank you, Mr. Miller, for being so authentic with us today. Sometimes we look at the first as a man, as a father who is standing up, and all the other men that you mentioned in your organization who are standing up with their families, with their children. They're not running away from the responsibility. Brother, I salute you.
Thank you so much.
We salute you and the men in your organization, because this is what true a man is all about. It's about holding strong to your responsibility, and no matter what, you're proud of your children and your family. So, brother, I just want to say thank you so much. God bless you.
While you're waiting for someone else to come, and they can come at any time, I just want to, one of the things I recommend to any parents with a young child, or even a child that's autistic, is you have to take them out, don't hide them. This isn't about you. You know, this isn't a problem that you could necessarily create it. We don't know why God had it, you know. And so what I did is, wherever I went, I took him food store, I dealt with it, the looks, whatever. Because again, it is not about me. And so early on, I learned how to handle adversity and embarrassment. And so therefore, when it was my turn, I took him to the bank and I teach him how to be in line and how to do things. From very young, I was doing that. So one of the key things is you really have to get them involved. Some people hide them, but we find there's a lot of people hide these kids and they keep them indoors, and they leave them there. And what happens is maybe these parents died and there's no one to take care of those kids. And you end up seeing a lot of them in the streets afterwards. And they become victims to a lot, vulnerable to abuse. Because a lot of times we did not spend time, as you said, to really invest and push them, or we hide them because they are a problem, and people to know that they are a problem.
Well, a couple of persons, if you want to read the comments that coming in.
Well, a few comments here. May God continue to bless you and strengthen you and the family, Mr. Miller. That's from Terry and Catherine.
Thank you.
We also have a comment here from Shervin Evans that says, "This is true. We are a member of the family." It's definitely a good
Thank you.
discussion, Mr. Miller, and I really do appreciate the words. You know, I'm not a father yet, but definitely learned some additional things that I can do.
Yes, sir.
Indeed, Darren to me this says, "Thank you for sharing your heart." We don't have any more questions.
Let me see if I get.
And another thing too, while I have the floor until, is, we have to, as a parent now, we having to look about, I'm getting older. And you have to look at the future of your children. You have, and if this child depends on what this child, how far this child gets or is not able to, you then have to set something in place to ensure that God's willing, he will outlive you, but you have to put in protection financially for him. You know, I've seen families where brothers and siblings, they go and they take whatever they can take and they don't care what's left for whoever. And even with kids, and I grow them up and I love my kids, I don't completely trust them to take care of my jewels. So I have to put measures in place to ensure that whatever we have, he gets his share. And as best we could. And so this is something every parent have to consider. And while not only for the special child, but for any child, you know, and so I want to add that as well.
Sherwin just type something.
Please tell us about the joy with raising a child on the spectrum.
Yeah, so some of the joys, and I'd call it again, you always know what's on their mind. And they don't hide, you know, they straight up, they tell you, they don't hide. Then they are very committed to task. If you give them a task, it's a task that they got used to, they do it. So I gave an example earlier. My son, Jewett, sorry, I have two other sons, but Jewett, if I got my other kids to try to do lawnmower, they will dilly and dally and try to duck out on that. And if something come up, they'll give you some excuse. But I say, Jewett, the yard needs to be done. He goes, he gets his stuff. He starts with his door because he's engaged in that. He goes, he gets the lawnmower. I don't have to be worried about it anymore because we've trained him. So I allow him with sharp tools and other things. So he goes up there, gets the lawnmower, gets the weed whack, and he's out there until that is done. And if that's 2 hours, if it's 2 hours, he'll be there for 2 hours, complete task.
Wow.
I also taught him how to, and so the number of joys too. As I get older, I don't like to change my tire. I caught a plan yesterday. I try and go out for Jewett. The Jewett is the only one in our house right now. I say, Jewett, man, I need to have my 2 tires changed. I taught him how to do that. I just supervised to make sure he puts it on tight. He's done it in 5 minutes. I have 2 tires changed. So these are some of the joys that I experience because I don't get my older kids, they'll either duck out. My other kids, sorry, they'll either duck out or find a way. That's not him. So I have a reliable soul. I don't, you know, I have a reliable soul. So that's
Wow.
some of the joys. If I wanted something to eat, Jewett, you could go do that for me. He likes the kitchen, and he'll go to do that as well. And then, you know, he has made room for us. You know, the Bible says your gifts will make room for you. And our son has brought us before kings, so to speak, governor generals, places that ordinarily we wouldn't be. But, you know, because of him, I mean, getting through the airport too, you know, it could be a breeze because he's special and, you know, so these are opportunities. And in the US, I mean, sometimes you can get through these long lines with him. So these are some of the benefits of joy of having him too. And then he is on point in the morning. If he has to get away, he don't like to be late. And he's upset, but he's late for work. So that's a nice discipline that he has. You know, and so he'll come and knock on the door. It's time to get up. And so these, you know, he's reliable. So I can really count on him, and I appreciate that about him. So those are some of the changes.
Awesome.
This is also, I can't read that.
Yeah, Terry and Mark in here saying that this is also awesome. Mr. Miller, I just want to take this time just to thank you on behalf of the Rotary Club for taking the time to be with you, just to share with us your perspective as a father in terms of navigating autism with your son, Jewett. And one of the lessons that I will take away is that it all boils down to training and instilling the skill set in your son from an early age, and by having him exposed, that definitely did assist him with his development and also love. We just want to say thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Any other announcements for any updates? Anything else? All right, so next week, let them know,
All right.
let them know next week. We'll see them next week.
All right, everyone, we'll have our four-way test.
Oh, yes. Hold on, let me see if I can pull it up. Hold on. It's at the bottom, right? Nope. Is it? Okay. 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 I'm getting it right here. Oh, certificate. You want to say the certificate? Certificate? Okay. There you go.
All right, our four-way test, based on the things we say,
Do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will build good, will and better friendships?
Will
Will
it
it
be
be
better
to
to
all
all
concerned?
concerned?
And
Will it be fun?
Fun.
All right.
for our Rotary toast, Darren Larry, who can lead us in the Rotary toast.
Raise our glasses. Rotary all around the world.
Rotary
Rotary.
all around the world. All right. How do I get this on?
Thank you, everyone, for joining our meeting today. There's no further announcements.
All right. Have a great day, everyone.
You as well. Have a great day.
Have a great day.
Have a
All
good
right.
day.
Good day, everybody.
Good day, everybody.
Good day.